Welcome to the Women Leaders Association podcast, where we believe we go further, faster, and have more fun when we go together. Be sure to tune in each week to hear an empowering message from the world's top women executives, trailblazers, entrepreneurs, and all-around fierce female leaders. I'm your host, Julianne Kirkland, and I will be taking you on a deep dive of each message to equip you with the principles, strategies, and tools you need to start crushing your goals, increasing your impact, creating work-life harmony, and did I mention have more fun? Because when you love what you do it better. The Women Leaders Association is the world's largest women executives association with over 30,000 women in executive and leadership positions who are committed to the development and advancement of women in the corporate arena. If you would like to get involved in a Women Leaders Association chapter, would enjoy daily podcasts, or you desire to become a part of the Women's Mastermind group near you, simply go to womenleaderspodcast.com. Now let's tune in for this incredible message.
On today's episode, hear from the Real Sloane. Sloane went from a successful business attorney to a renowned guide for women seeking to break free from hustle culture. Sloane's life and work are all about tapping into the deepest parts of ourselves to create lasting success and happiness. Sloane's journey is a remarkable story of courage, vulnerability, and radical self-love.
Welcome back to the Women Leaders Podcast. I'm so excited you're with us today. Welcome, Sloane.
Thank you. Great to be here, Julianne.
I am so excited you're here. So you have so much goodness to talk about it. So let's just dive right in. What is the main passion you have about educating and talking to women and helping them to kind of step into their power?
Definitely that there is another way to do business than what we've been taught, another way to create in our lives. And it's different and it feels uncomfortable, especially for powerful, successful women. But there's this whole other path that actually has the result of not only a sense of ease in your life, but creating a lot more success and impact.
Yes. Well, I know we have so many high achieving women that listen to this podcast. So the fact that you just said ease, I know like all of their ears were like, they just literally leaned in no matter what they're doing. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can get more ease in our life.
Yes, I think that's huge because a lot of women have heard this idea, like there's some land out there where they can have ease and also have their successful, powerful lifestyle, but it sort of seems like a fantasy. And the reason from my perspective that happens is because the way we've been taught to create success is actually the masculine way. And I love men. There's nothing wrong with it. It actually really works to create success. And I built my whole law firm in that way. So I know it well. Yeah. And this other path is really a new path. It's a path for pioneers because it is first understanding our feminine gifts as women, understanding our biology, understanding how our bodies work, which is very different than men's, and then forging this new path. Yes.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. So how did you step into this? What was your aha moment? Like, take us back to that moment.
Well, in 2014, I had just invested $100,000 with a mentor to help me grow my law firm. And at one of his conferences, he says, I want you to envision the highest version of your life. So I thought to myself, okay, the first and most important thing, I'm recently divorced. I want to be really close to my 4-year-old daughter, Colette. The second thing is I love to live like the world is my playground, and I want to have a group of friends who do the same thing. And the third thing I knew I wanted is to have a partner where we can live and grow and travel together. So 4 years later, I'm at a private beach resort in Mexico with my new love. And we met in a bar in Zambia, and now we live together. And my daughter loves him and I love him. And we're there with this group of friends who've been traveling the world with us. So there we are in this paradise, having dinner under a straw thatched roof outside. And I start having this crazy out of body experience. I'm looking around and I'm like, I consciously created this whole thing, my life. And I don't feel like I belong here. I am not actually having fun with this group of people. I don't have the relationship that I want with Colette. And when I go home from this experience, I'm hosting a policies and procedures retreat for attorneys that I know in my heart isn't the work that I'm here to do. So the next morning, my boyfriend and I get into this huge argument. And it's the same argument we've had over and over and over again. And in his frustration, he looks right at me and he says, Sloane, why don't we just get married? And it was in that moment, Julianne, that I was like, this is not the life I wanted. And I don't know how I got to this point that was what I thought it was exactly what I wanted, and it wasn't at all, but I'm ready to change my life. So from there, I asked my friends for space. I canceled all my travel. I ended my relationship. And for the first time in my life, I really started to build a relationship with myself. I was alone, I was with my daughter, and I was working with mentors. And I started looking at the truth of my life and who I'd been being, and started trying to figure out, okay, what do I do from here? So I start taking myself on dates to the beach, focusing on my daughter, asking myself questions like, if you forget about what you think will make you happy, what actually makes you happy?
Yes.
Yes. Now, right?
Yeah.
And then I, instead of traveling across the world with my boyfriend and all my friends, I take my daughter abroad. We spend lazy days together. I have this beautiful experience one night. We're in the bath and I'm washing her hair. And I'm like, I am washing her hair. I am taking care of my daughter, me, not a nanny. It's like in this moment, I'm finally being the mom I always knew that I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And from there, I take a leap. When we go home, instead of this policies and procedures retreat for attorneys, I invite a bunch of women to a retreat that's focused on aligning to their highest potential. And I rent an estate and I get everything ready and no one shows up.
Oh,
so later, I know nobody's there. So 3 months later, I did it again and I invite the women, and this time 4 women come. And today I host retreats around the world, guiding women in truly stepping into their highest potential. And to answer your question, here is what I discovered from this journey. We are meant to be feeling good in this moment.
Yeah.
We're meant to be experiencing more pleasure in our relationships. We're meant to be experiencing the creativity and the passion of our work. We're really meant to be experiencing more pleasure in every area of our life. And it is in this pleasure that actually it's been researched and studied to the hilt that we then create our highest levels of success and impact.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And, I have an event coming up in October, and just hearing that, like, I can just imagine as, somebody that hosts events, that feeling of like your excitement. You have the vision of this retreat and you occupied the space, which isn't for free, and like all the things that go into it. Right. And then no one shows up. I can just like feel that devastation, but to your power, you did it again. Because you knew that's what you were meant to do. And that was the highest form of you calling you into that. And you stepped into it. And I think, so many women might have this vision for themselves, for their lives, right? I want more, I want higher, I want bigger, I want better, all the things. And then they will say things like, oh, well, so-and-so, she just must be lucky, or, and they like will put down the people that are living that life. And I'm like, you won't ever step into it that way. You won't ever begin to create it if you already have a negative relationship to it. And so I love, to your point, that like, no, it's when we tap into the passion and the pleasure of what that can bring that we actually will go towards it.
Yes. And the only way to really tap into the passion and the pleasure is to be aligned with yourself. Yes. And that was the biggest thing that I was missing. Was I was very excited about a lot of the things that I was creating, but I was so far out of alignment that nothing was working and nothing was happening. So this piece of alignment is so important to look at in all of our own lives, and ongoing, because we can get into alignment and then get out. So ongoing is like, what would it take, or where do I need to get into alignment in my life? Where are things out of alignment, even a little bit?
Yeah.
And that's what the missing link is, not that you're not working hard enough or doing enough or good enough or any of those other things that we women can tell ourselves.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And, for those who are listening, they're like, okay, I hear this word alignment tossed around a lot by successful women, and they might not quite have a full understanding of what that means. To me, it's easy to look at like a chiropractor, right? You go to the chiropractor to get put back in alignment. But if you're not doing the things, if you're not stretching, if you're not exercising, if you're not eating properly, if you're not getting massages to relax those muscles, you will quickly get pulled back out of alignment, right? And the same thing with your life. Like you can go to a retreat and feel fully aligned and know all the things. And then life's going to happen. Right? You're going to encounter resistance and it's going to tend to pull you out of alignment. And so what are some of the tips and tricks and nuances that you've learned about this journey in dealing with so many women of, okay, this is what we need to do to kind of like recalibrate to get us back into that state of alignment?
Alignment for me is that knowing inside of what you need to do or be or have. So I'll use a really simple, basic example. Let's say you got in an argument with a girlfriend and you said some things that you wish you wouldn't have, or maybe you showed up in a way that wasn't your best. And yet you're kind of mad because the way the conversation went and what happened, it felt bad. Being out of alignment is leaving that as an open loop. You keep thinking about it. You're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But then again, I don't want to say anything. So maybe the easier path, maybe a path I'll say, could be to just wait till she comes to you or just let it go and not think about it anymore. To me, alignment is you don't leave an open loop there. And it's actually going to express your truth, to say everything that you feel. It could be, hey, I didn't show up at my best. And also a part of me really doesn't even want to bring this to you because I still feel really angry about what happened.
Right.
So that's a tiny little example. And then we could go to the other end of the spectrum with my huge example of, I knew for a long time that being in my relationship was out of alignment for me, but it felt so painful to let go of that I just kept living, and it kept getting harder and harder to be out of alignment. The circumstances were getting more and more extreme and felt more painful as time went on. And here's the really, I think, most exciting part about this. When you're out of alignment in one area of your life, since, you're one whole person, that will make the other areas out of your life feel like they're not working. So let's say in your business, you feel like you can't get past a certain amount of revenue. No matter what you do, you can't get past that. The place to look is not what's the new strategy I need to do or the new coach I need to hire. Maybe. Yeah, exactly. But also is where else in my life that might seem completely unrelated am I out of alignment? And that is your path into more revenue in your business.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm just like high-fiving you through the screen. Those of you on YouTube, you can see it. Those of you listening are like, all right, just visualize. People visualize. You are so on point. And in fact, I'm doing a TED Talk next month on like integrated identity. And it's the same concept, right? Of like, I have 6 kids and I'm a, serial entrepreneur. And it's like, there was a point where I was looking to society to tell me like what made me a good mom. And I made sure I checklisted all those things and did that. And what made me a good CEO. And I checklisted all those things and did that. But what I wasn't doing was bringing in the parts that made me a good mom, the elevated curiosity in me and adventure and this new understanding of living a beautiful life without judgment. Like my kids were the ones that awakened me to that, all these things that my kids now like heighten my senses to, I wasn't bringing into the CEO, the quote unquote boardroom, because that wasn't the silo that society represents. And it's like, no, that is still a part of me, and bringing that in and being able to express that through, like, that's when I operated my best. That's when my business really succeeded, and vice versa, so I love that you're saying that because it's so on point. And women especially feel like we have to carry the weight of it all.
and we feel and that's why the term, work-life balance gets thrown around all the time. And it's like, it's really more about that harmony. It's not like, okay, I got to balance the scales. I got to, it's really coming forth of who you fully are. And that is what you're talking about with alignment.
Yeah. I love what you shared about when you realize you brought all of yourself into corporate or the boardroom, then everyone is better off. Yeah. And I think we've been fed this lie, and part of it, let me say, I think we've been fed this lie that people are better off, and especially in corporate or work environments, and maybe friend environments also, when we wear masks, when we act a certain way that we think is perceived better or better for others, when in truth, what you individually have to bring into everything that you do is the highest contribution that you can possibly make in being yourself and being all of you and being a unique person that's there, that maybe some people you rub the wrong way and other people are going to love it. Right. But it's not going to be just like everybody else and marching along wearing a mask.
That's right. And you know what? That it's okay that there are going to be people that don't like you, that you're not going to resonate with. That's okay. And I think when we can embrace that, there's so much more freedom to it, to be able to say, I'm not for everybody. And that's okay. I don't have to change what I love about myself to try and fit and appease and all of that. Like I get to be me. And if somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. It has nothing to do with me.
Yes. I love that mindset. And I want to also just call out to any women who are people pleasers to acknowledge that usually breaking from out of people pleasing and being in the practice of some of the things we're talking about into what you're sharing, Julianne, for a lot of people is at first like walking through a fire. It can feel like you're going to be burned up, like you're going to lose everybody. It can be very challenging. And I know from personal experience, because I'm a recovering people pleaser. So I do truly understand that the process of stepping into what we're talking about is big. And when you do 100% what you just shared, it is the greatest freedom of life to be able to live being you.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because when we first got on, those of you who are watching on YouTube can see Sloane is, drop dead gorgeous right now. And she's all beautiful. And I'm in a t-shirt with my glasses on and my hair pulled back. But see, here's the thing. Several years ago, I would have felt less than. I would have felt like I don't have anything to contribute to the conversation, right? I would have believed all these lies of what it's supposed to be like. Are we frozen?
I got frozen. Don't know what happened.
She's back. Okay.
And you were on a tear. You were. I loved it.
It's like when you're voice messaging and then it shuts off on you and you're like, I don't know where that ended. But anyway, just saying that years prior, right, that would have impacted how I was showing up on this call. I would have felt intimidated. I would have felt less than. I would have felt like I don't have anything to contribute to the conversation. When the truth of the matter is, I'm super comfortable right now. You know what I mean? And like that opens up a different energy path for me to have this conversation with.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that so openly. And I love hearing about your journey because it's so relatable, and this feeling of really everything that you've been sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, to the person who's listening right now, it's like, oh my gosh, this all sounds amazing. I want to be just like them. What would you say? Okay, what's step one? Like, where do they start?
Step one for me is focusing on your relationship with yourself. Because for a lot of women, when I start talking about feeling good and enjoying your life and pleasure and connectedness, and a lot of women are like, yeah, that's amazing, but I really am just trying to get through today. I'm just trying to pay the bills. I'm just trying to figure out right now this stuff and make sure everybody's okay. And I really do understand that because there's a lot of conditioning for us as women that is how we need to focus for everyone, including ourselves, to be the best off. And if you at least buy into this idea, I have a core belief that is pleasure is my North Star. And that is really at its core with this idea that feeling good on the inside is what I'm focused on as a top priority. Now, even if I'm far from that right now, even if you might be, if you agree or can move yourself into this idea that, okay, yeah, there's something to that, focusing on my pleasure instead of trying to make more money, trying to make sure everybody else is okay, putting myself down on the list, having this like hustle lifestyle. If you buy into that idea, the first step is not to try to find more pleasure. The first step is actually to start paying attention to what is the quality of relationship that you have with you. Because at the core of feeling good is your relationship with you. And actually, it turns out at the core of everything in your life is the quality of your relationship with you.
Yeah.
So there's so much we can talk about that, and I could talk for hours on it. And when you really start to build a relationship with you that is soulful, is connected, is sensual, is sexy, is fun, is supportive, everything in your life shifts from that place.
Yeah, it's so good. I talk a lot with, again, I work with a lot of high achieving women of that, honoring your word, honoring yourself in that way, because so often we'll make commitments and we'll keep them for other people because it's like, they're depending on me, right? The commitments that we make to ourselves, those little micro agreements, right? Like, you know what? I really enjoy taking a bubble bath and reading a book. And then we instead sit on the couch and scroll because maybe that's what our spouse is doing or whatever, like we're not keeping those little micro agreements that we make to ourselves. And it's reaffirming this belief that we really don't matter. Right. And it's hard to step into this pleasure and love and acceptance and all of these beautiful things that's what we're created to do and be able to put forth into this world. Because you got to have a full cup, ladies, if you're going to keep pouring out.
Yes.
Right. And so to be able to fill your cup with the things that matter, right, that takes intentionality. And I've been at that place, with 6 young kids. I've been there, ladies, where you're just like, I just want to survive the day, And
yes, that feeling of I just want to survive the day is actually an effect of you not having a really high quality relationship with yourself. So it's hard to see when you're in it.
Yes.
But these practices of following through with your word, when you say, I'm going to have time for me, and then to nourish yourself during that time. Another one I like to do is, just simply looking myself in the eye in the mirror. It could be while I'm washing my hands. It could be passing by a mirror in the room, but just taking a minute and looking myself in the eye. It could be just with a smile, if you want to start with that. And then it can be evolving into some really nice self-talk. But that is, for me, the beginning of this relationship with you that actually feels good and nourishes and uplifts.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. I love that. So what has been on your retreats? What has been some of the big breakthroughs that women have come through?
Well, the really cool thing about our retreats as a foundation is that there is no phone or computer. When everyone arrives, they give their electronics to us. And then
pause. Does anybody have a panic attack during that moment?
Yes. And some people even leading up to that moment. So for some people, that is a big piece and can feel really uncomfortable for a while until there's the shift of freedom. Yeah. So without distractions and actually without any outside interaction, we create an experience that really is for each woman's stepping into clarity about who she really is right now. Because a lot of the women we work with have done a ton of personal growth. They're very self-aware, and that's always evolving. So who am I really now without any outside anything? And then our women's retreat is actually curated to give each woman what I call an awakening moment. So these are moments where in life, usually it happens through a drama or a tragedy. Someone passes away unexpectedly, you lose a big client, your company goes bankrupt, something big happens that causes you to wake up and realize, oh my gosh, none of XYZ is important. This is who I am. This is what I need next. This is where I'm focused and where I'm going. Right. And instead of drama or tragedy, we actually create this through a very beautiful, uplifting, carefully curated experience so that the women leave with uplift, and then also crystal clarity about what is important, where they do want to focus, and then actual action steps to move forward in their lives.
That's so important. And just the fact that you said, clarity, and they step into it, because in order to have clarity, so many people talk about, I want to be clear. I want to be clear. One, clarity, being clear is kind, right? Being clear to yourself is kind to yourself. And it also requires that action, that stepping into it, because you have to get it out of your mind. If you're just trying to think your way through everything, it's not going to work. You have to have that expression. You have to have that motion, that movement, that accountability of being there with other people in a safe environment where you feel safe and able to explore into an area you perhaps may never have done before.
Yeah. And especially for those kind of thoughts or problems or situations in life that seem like they keep ruminating in your mind, or as soon as you think of the choices or the solution, it's like, oh yeah, but no, this, and then this, and it's kind of like chasing a dog chasing its tail. For the situations where you have that experience, usually there's a blind spot associated with it. And so, as you're saying, clarity is a choice, it's an action. If you have a blind spot, you probably need support or a shift in your environment or something different than what you've been doing for it to be illuminated.
Yeah.
That's the context of our retreats and a lot of the work that I do with women. And also, I work with people who support me in seeing my blind spots because we all have them.
Yes. Yes. Just like we all get 24 hours in a day, because there's people that just think that, successful people have more time. We all have blind spots, and I will never not work with a coach or a mentor, because I am always evolving. I am always growing. And it's helping to see the things that I haven't been able to see in myself before. And when you have somebody like yourself that is trusted and that has been through this and experienced it, one, don't just go to some random schmo on the street and be like, hey, will you call out greatness in me? It's probably not going to work out for you. But to be in an environment like you provide, again, it allows those women to feel like, okay, that I am safe, right? To be able to step forward in this as I might not have ever been before. And after the retreats, you continue to offer support. How does that work?
Yes. So after the retreats, we look at, what are her next steps with this level of clarity. And with some clients, I do private consulting. With some clients, then we talk about, another path or another person that they need, or they're set onto the path that is aligned with the trajectory that they know is right for them. I'm the guide and the support, but this truly in the end is about each woman individually and what is her soul, her inner guidance, however you like to call it, herself calling her towards. Yeah. And that's really, I think, one of the greatest adventures of this life is to be living in that way.
Yeah. So what has been your biggest aha moment from kind of burnout attorney to where you are now, looking back over the past few years? What has been your biggest aha?
The greatest business strategy that exists is following your own inner guidance. And I think, the way I built my law firm, I created a successful firm, I sold it. So I did it, what I had set out to do. And
check.
Done. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. And I'm grateful for that. And it was a phenomenal experience. And when I look back on it now, I can actually see how small I kept myself by the way I was working. And that idea of the lists and doing all the stuff and doing it right and listening to the strategies. I'm not saying strategies aren't important, because I actually think they're quite important and very valuable. It's just, to me, the strategy now is secondary to how am I being pulled to create in my business or in my life, in my relationship with my daughter. And then I can go look at, all right, what are the ways that I could do that? What then feels exciting to me? What do I want to pour my heart and soul into? And it allows me to create on this much grander level than I realized was possible when I was grinding and creating in my law firm.
I love that. Oh, this conversation is so rich. So as we wrap up, what is one last piece of advice you would give to the woman listening right now? I loved even if it's just a moment where you're looking yourself in the eye in the mirror. You can start there.
Yes.
What is one last piece of advice you would give to her right now where you can just feel her sitting on the edge of her seat, leaning in, wanting more for herself, like she's finally in that awareness space? What's next for her?
I would say the path of trusting yourself can be taken with baby steps. So wherever you are on that path, because this whole thing I'm talking about, following your inner guidance, requires an enormous amount of trust and faith. And for some people, it's like, I don't even know what my inner guidance is saying. Some people are like, I do know what it's saying, but I'm scared. And some people are already in a practice of following it. So wherever you are, what's the next step forward? The little thing the tiny step that you could take in practicing trusting yourself, because trusting yourself is really just an analogy. It's another way of trusting life. And when you can live in a way of, taking action from the place of, I trust that life is for me. I trust that everything that's being presented to me is unfolding exactly the way it should for my greatest good. When you live and you're knowing that and living from that place, really life can flourish and become way better than you ever imagined. And the steps towards that are practicing doing something that feels uncomfortable, even when it's scary, even when you feel like there might be loss, even when you don't know how it's going to turn out, and then seeing how it turns out and making yourself right for it and realizing how it's for you.
Oh, that's so good. Sloane, thank you so much. This has been such an incredible conversation. So how are ways that the audience can get in touch with you?
Definitely on social. I love to connect there. And if anyone feels inspired to reach out, I would love to hear from you personally. I'd love to connect with powerful, growth-minded women. And we also have a course that you can find on my website called Falling in Love with Yourself. And it's a 10-day course with amazing women who join. And if that interests you, I would love to have you there. And you can also reach out to me to explore if it's the right thing for you.
Awesome. And we will be sure to have all those links in the show notes so that y'all can be sure to connect with Sloane. Sloane, thank you so much.
Thank you, Julianne. Great to be here.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, ladies. That's all for today, my friends. Be sure to give us a 5-star rate and review and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're looking for more connection, more resources, be sure to check out womenleaderspodcast.com and see how you can get involved with the Women Leaders Association chapter nearest you. Bye for now.